I want to look at women and womanist theory, and I want to look at something called grounded theory. So I started looking at research, and I looked at how grounded theory and womanist theory talked about in literature, and a lot of times this is what I came up with. Black women are most likely the group to experience the mental health problems. Now if you think about that, just off the cuff, what does that make you feel like? We're the group that most likely to experience some type of mental health problem. The Surgeon General, this was what, 13 years ago, said, we don't even go to therapy. Least likely to go to therapy. And the most important, the Surgeon General said that the system on mental health has completely failed the African American population. The Health Cost Utilization Project says that it's disproportionately impacted black people. Is this the same thing you just heard 5 minutes ago? Sound like I'm preaching to the choir?
No.
I'm sorry, question. Were brothers included in that? I just feel like they go to counseling and doctors less than women do.
I wanted to just look at women, but when I went to look for studies that said, do black women go to counseling? Didn't find it. I found about what they don't do. I found about what they, the welfare system, what they do in the welfare system. I found what I did find out about black women in counseling when I put that in all the search engines, came up with counseling for cancer, which is what Dr. Roberts just talked about. There's a lot of research on black women in counseling for cancer. There's research on black women in counseling for HIV, but just therapy, dealing with everyday problems. So cancer, Ninth Ward, which one? We did no research on the Ninth Ward. I mean, that could have been 20,000 researchers right there. I mean, it should have been how many people lost their life. That should have been that much of research. But when I went from 2004, I started researching, nothing on it. Black women particularly, not black. Now I got this, the one I read before was on black people in general. That wasn't black women, that was just black people. But we're most likely to experience a problem, but no research on us. Do the math. The research does say that there's not much known about black women engaging in counseling. There's no qualitative inquiry, which is qualitative is telling your story. Quantitative is saying, how many went to therapy? One, okay, that's quantitative. Qualitative, what was it like and what made you not go to therapy? That's qualitative. Nobody's ever done that when I looked at the research. So I took that upon myself and said, I think this is way more important than figuring out when they're there, why do they leave early? So if you look at who we are, we're only 6% of the population, but we experience the most problems. Based on what Dr. Roberts just talked about, why are we considered the people that experience the most problems? Why would someone make that assumption that we experience the most problems?
Environment.
Environment. What else would make black women have to experience the most problems?
Family relationships.
Family relationships.
Caretaking, everybody got to take care of everybody.
Bingo. Taking care of everybody else. If you're taking care of all the black boys that are in the jail, that are the crime problem, that are the police problems, as she just talked about, historical slavery, who has given birth to those boys? Black women. Who took care of them when they were in jail? Black women. Who sends them mail? Who takes care of them when they get out? Who tries to keep them out of jail? But who's not getting therapy or getting any help? Black women. Research says that even after you control for social and economic, blacks and Americans may have a higher rate of some mental health issues than other populations. Even if you take out the equation on economics, which is again what Dr. Roberts just alluded to, we're still having more problems than any other race in this country. Historically, this is a repeat of what she just talked about. Black women face negative cultural stereotypes about sexuality. What were the three old school ones? You too young, you won't know. Oh, you didn't do your research. Oh, you got that out of research. You don't know that. You got that out of research. Don't play. You got that out of research. Jezebel. What were they? Jezebel, Mammy, and what was the third? What was the third one? Sapphire. Everybody forgot that one?
Yeah.
Exactly. What do those three things represent? What's the Jezebel one? What that represent?
Promiscuous, yeah.
Promiscuous and sexual, over-sexual. Made the slave man rape her because she was so sexual. Mammy, what was that one about? Caretaker. Taking care of everybody's kids, like the movie The Help. Just taking care of everybody's babies. And the last one, Sapphire, what's that one? Oh, man. Now we got the young ones.
Sapphire got a mental problem.
I'll get...
Is that a mental problem?
Amos and Andy?
Yeah, I know.
She was the dominant. She was the dominant.
Dominant.
That's right.
Angry black woman. Black woman. You know, always putting them in his place. You know, got her man henpecked. That's the Sapphire image. So that's been our image, starting from slavery all the way up to now, and now they just have different names. Black women, non-Hispanic black women endorse feeling worthlessness, sadness, nervousness, and hopeless more often than any other group except Puerto Rican women. Now this is American, so remember Puerto Rican women, we're 6%, and they're even a smaller amount. Black women use less traditional resources such as prayer to associate there's more stigma with counseling. So again, they're telling us that black women don't go to counseling, or they need more help, but there's nothing there to help them because they obviously just naturally feel hopeless and sad for no reason at all. But I argue there's something else that makes black women feel that way. So what we did find out in the literature was that when black women go to therapy, they drop out. They find there's not a good clinical match, and what's that about? Not enough people that look like us. And why is that important?
You want to be matched with someone you feel comfortable with, who you identify with.
Exactly. And establish trust. I always use this analogy when I hear people saying, I can't stand her voice. I just can't stand so-and-so. He just talking this, ooh, I just can't stand her voice. Physically and kinesthetically, we are attracted to what's like us. Even if it's an opposite race, even if it's an opposite or same gender, we're attracted to what's like us. For instance, a lot of women that have high-pitched voice, like, I don't even know the girl's name because her high-pitched voice is hilarious. From Chicago. Everybody likes her.
Wait.
It's a middle block because I don't really like her.
What is she? She's a comedian?
She came from the Idol show.
Singer. Okay. Oh, wow.
Jennifer
Hudson?
Hudson.
Oh, Jennifer Hudson. No.
With my deep voice, listen to my deep voice. I'm a Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm a,
I'm a baker.
See what I'm saying? This ain't hit you, bam, right out the box. Because you can hear my voice. How would I be a Jennifer Hudson fan? Or there's another one with a squeaky voice. Yes, in the back.
No, I want to, before I lose my thought, when you were talking about the women dropping out of treatment, one of the main, there's several things. Women are hard to keep in treatment for any reason, whether it's in mental health, substance abuse, anything. And the thing is that we don't have the resources all the time to go. Now the lady spoke yesterday said about because of insurance you got a babysitter. Sometimes women have men that tell them you ain't going to no counseling because the first thing they're afraid of, if they go to counseling, gonna get rid of you.
Right.
So they have so many reasons, that they drop out. They may start because they know they need it.
Right.
But then as time goes on, they drop out because of some.
And usually, when you look at the research in here, in the study that I did, you'll see a little more, it'll give you a clear picture of what that's about. So again, did we talk about black men? The way that I found any information about people saying, I don't want to come to counseling. So when I brought this dissertation to my professors, they said, Veronica, there's no way to get people that don't go to counseling. You can't find them. How are you going to find them? Walk the streets, you're not going to get, they're not in counseling, so where are you going to get them from? And I said, I have a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis. I ask them, what do you do when there's a problem? I go to my friend. I go find a solution. I go figure it out. I go pray about it. Those are the people I was looking for. So when I went to research, which is where we get all about, some way you can get paid to do anything, that there's some research to back it. The research was looking at people with substance abuse. The research didn't even find people that don't go to counseling. They had to find people that use substance. They were already in a program, and ask them, why didn't you come to counseling? But they didn't find anyone that just didn't go to counseling. They had to find people who were already using substance and then ask them, why didn't you go to counseling? Because they're really asking, if you got a substance abuse problem, why don't you go get help? And that's what they said.
And most of them are
Court order.
mandated.
There you go. That's how they got them.
That's how they got it.
You're not going to get people that don't go to counseling to talk about why I'm not going to counseling. This is why I'm not going to counseling, because I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk about it. We'll see that in a little bit. You hold that thought, and I want you to come in on that. I got the thought, and you're going to explain it for me. 40% said that I can't afford it. The other 33% said that yeah, I can handle it. I can figure it out. 21 said I don't even know where to find counseling, and 15% said I didn't have time to take care of my mental health needs. Just don't have time for it. So there's always some excuse. For West, Donovan, and Rumor, they decided to call this a triple effect. Racism, sexism, and classism. How so with classism? How does classism prevent you from getting treatment and help?
Well, there's obviously money, right? But it's also, I think there's something about being able to take care of yourself, not talking about your problems, like in working class, right? Like you don't talk about your business.
Exactly. Working class is probably a better terminology, because most people think of classism as being rich, the rich whites. Miss Belton, a friend of mine here, we live in, she's in Baltimore, and I tell her every day, some days I drive through our community, and it's depressing because I go, God, everybody just out here just doing absolutely nothing, and it's not a black community down by what they call Pigtown. They hung over heroin addicts.
Yep.
White, black, class, poor and poverty. Sexism, how does sexism prevent you from getting treatment? Who do we normally think of as providers? If they talk to someone, men. And why would you want to go in and talk to a man about your problem? What, you got a frown on your face? You think of something else?
No, I think that's correct.
That's
male. Right.
When you ask someone who's a psychiatrist, you usually don't think of Oprah on TV talking to Ellen. You think about Dr. Phil or some white guy. And the last one was racism. Obviously, if you don't match, you might not want to go with stick to someone that doesn't look like you. So I'm going to fast forward through more of the literature and get to what the clients actually said, the participants said in the study. The last part of this is that to justify using the type of research I did, I realized that most of the theories that are out there are geared toward a Western European culture, which is a white male dominant culture. I wanted to bring in how can we talk to black women about their own experiences. So I used what's called the womanist experience, and I'll ask you to see if it resonates with you. The reality is that black women are often excluded from discussion within the research of developing theories that determine why they participate in counseling. The womanist approach allows black women to express their own values through their own personal experience. How often have you been asked to tell your story? Anyone ever ask you, hey, would you get up and tell me your story and tell me what life was like for you, how you got to where you are? Someone asks you. Anyone. More normally we go through life and people kind of go, well, you must be doing okay. You must be doing something right.
That's because you haven't told anybody the real story.
The real story?
Yeah.
You want to tell the real story?
Oh, if I told the story, we'd be here all day.
Shirley Belton is one of my colleagues, but she's also one of the participants. She asked me if I needed her to be the expert today, because I believe when I'm in therapy, the expert in the room is my client. You're the best person to figure everything out because you know your life way better than I do. But when I came to her and said, you know what, you had this and this happen to you, why didn't you go to therapy? She was my first interview. And she's taught me a lot about how to engage our more black women, our more educated and uneducated women into counseling. She's given me a plethora of information, but she does have a long story. So we'll see if we can engage part of her story. And so I use a grounded theory as a qualitative methodology. This is more the definition about black women. By definition, black women are all women of color who are not white, occupying the inferior superior pole of the race gender intersection. What do you think about that definition? Black womanhood, a social location of the bottom intersection of social hierarchy. Think about what Dr. Roberts just talked about. If there's a pole, somebody got to be on top, somebody got to be on bottom. And if you rank people in this world, as she would say, that we're all the same, who's number one? There's only 4 groups, so somebody got to be number one. Who's number one?
White man.
White male. Who's
White
number
male.
2?
White women.
White women. Who's number 3?
Black women. No?
Black male.
Black man.
See, like at the bottom. And the women at the bottom.
Who say black men are on the bottom?
Well,
Black men are on the bottom. Really? Explain. Any 4 of you?
Well, I think there have been some studies to say that we as black females, we spoil our males, so we make them less.
We do what?
We spoil the black male.
Spoil
meaning
them.
that we push the black female forward more, and we kind of enable the black male. And also from slavery, they wanted to keep the black male down, and they pushed the situations that the black females had to be in. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of in the forefront. And according to some things I've read, meaning that this has then given the black male a certain kind of inferiority complex.
So you think the black male's in 4th or 3rd?
I think the black males are last.
4th.
Because how the so-called society, white society, where we've been at since the days of slavery, where they have put them at, mm-hmm. and the demeaning things that, where they've tried to break down this sense of who they are, mm-hmm. and the independency of the black
right
man.
now you feel like the black male's in 4th place.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with her, and just wanted to add, their experience. I'm so used to seeing professional black women. I have quite a few male friends who experience, I think, whether they are, on the low socioeconomic ladder or even higher up their climb, they're threatened by black men. Black women aren't as threatening to white men in the white establishment as I feel, that our brothers are.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that I would put the black women on the bottom, and that the reason that the black men are, I think they are more threatening than black women, and I think that's why there's been a concerted effort to lock them up, to put them in the position that they're put in, because they're still more threatening to white men and white women than black women are to either of the people up the ladder. So I think that even though it looks like what's happened now, but the way it looks now, it looks like that black men are worse off or valued less. I think in all of that, there's still a real fear from white men of black men, and therefore put in a fear and concerted effort to put them down in a certain kind of way.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody else said that black men are at the bottom, or black women at the bottom? Black women or men?
No, I say black men, but I agree with basically what they were saying.
Okay. One of the reasons why I feel like, and I'll just give you my opinion, for black women being on the bottom, is that a lot of times, even when you have a corporate settings, which is, for me, where most of the 90% of America works in, they don't, we're as African American and people who are in social, have a social agenda, don't socialize, in my opinion, and hear the conversations of the 90% that are at the top, or the 1%, the 99, the 1% are worried about who can make money. And for me, that's more important than our social agenda down here at the bottom. That's 99%, because we don't make that many rules. We don't get to decide who's on the Supreme Court. Not really. We don't get to decide how the stock market works. Not really. And that's pretty much how this country's run, whether all of our products are being shipped out or they're getting tax breaks. So what does the 1% think? The 1% is happy with the white man and the white woman. The reason why the 1% is happier to see the black male above the woman because the black male is more likely to take the role and say, okay, I'll do whatever as long as we can work together. It's a similar thing about, can this black man make me money or can I put a black woman out there to make me money? No one's ever been able to say, let Oprah be my CEO. They'd rather have someone, a black man that's going to play the game with him, not get offended. Oprah's going to come in and go, no, we ain't doing that. He ain't that kind of party. No corporate wants Oprah on his board because Oprah's not going to sit there and take it. So who are they going to put next in line behind a white woman? A black male, because I can get him to not sell out as much, but I can get him to just not make a fuss over it. He's going to take care of his family. I'm going to give him enough money to keep him quiet. He'll be satisfied with the money I give him. A woman, on the other hand, you can give her so much money, at some point, what's going to happen?
She wants to be
She don't go.
Yeah, wait.
That's just how we think, but that's how white corporate thinks, and that's who runs the country. And that's why I always say, you got to look at economics. It's all about the money. We're concerned about social and cultural issues, but the issues are really about economics, which is why I think Dr. Roberts continues to talk about political paradigms. This is my own terminology. I hope one day to coin it and make it into a real reality. Safe place for black women. Keep that in mind. Safe place for black women. So the way the research is done, you start out with some codes. You take all these interviews, you put them in at the bottom. Initial codes, take the codes. Everything is thrown into a pot. Then they grow smaller and smaller until you come up with a theory. So these were the first main codes that came up. Spirituality, tragedies, and problem solving. Just like one of you said, figure it out. That's what we do. Why don't black women come to counseling? Because I can go to my spirituality, I can pray about it, or if there's some tragedies, that's just the way life is. There's going to be some tragedies. Or you know what I do? I problem solve them. That's what we do. When I look closer to their comments, raise your hand or write this down if any of these comments sound like something you've heard yourself say or someone you know. I believe in God, but it doesn't make any sense to me. This was a young lady who just had a car accident and she fatally killed another person maybe a couple of days before. She came in and said, I interviewed her and I said, why have you not come to counseling before? She goes, it's funny you asked me that because I just had an accident yesterday. I said, well, it's 2 days ago. Did you make any plans to go? No, I knew I had this interview, but I wasn't going to go to counseling. Okay, don't get that. I believe in God, but I don't go run to God as soon as something tragic happens. Ms. Sharon says, God made it that way, and that's the way life is going to be. Tarika says, my life is what it's supposed to be, meaning that I don't need to go to counseling because if it's tragic, if it's spiritual, if it's good, if it's bad, that's just the way it's going to be. It is what it is. And he's trying to fix it. And we have Miss Beverly said that her family had 5 funerals for her brother because it was so horrible and he lived and worked in all these different places. He had 5 funerals for this person. And I asked her, why was it? She said, because the death was unexpected. He was this great person, all this stuff around him. But it took them 5 funerals to say goodbye to him. Well, why not counseling? We believe that our faith will take us through this. She believed in her faith, not counseling, her faith. Chantel says, my spiritual. Chantel was an Islamic young lady. She said she felt like if she was feeling down, I need to do more things with my spiritual self. So a lot of talk about spirituality. And last of all, this pastor, she was a lesbian pastor of a church, and this was her comment, that God, for me, was 365, 24/7. Jesus is everything and more than any. He can handle any problem. That was her reason for not going to counseling. So when I continue to ask questions about what type of things that you go through that make you feel like this is bad, but I don't need to go to counseling. My dad was abusive. My boyfriend put a gun in my mouth. I got raped. My husband and I got into a fight. I used to go to do drugs. I ended up in jail, but I still didn't feel like that was the time for me to go to counseling and get therapy. Ms. McKinney says the sadness around him dying was horrible. It was horrific. It was heart-wrenching, but you know, without faith, our faith will get us through this. And finally, Ms. Catherine says, someone told her one day that, girl, your mama died. And she had to handle that on her own. For me, that would have put me in counseling right away. But I'm not the people to study. So when we tallied it up, most of the comments were around abuse, death, or some type of tragedy or trauma within their lifetime. So, you know, one day or, you know, earlier in my life, I had this thing where, you know, I lost my job, I had my kids to take care of, they were going to put me out, and I told them, I don't care if I'm getting, if I'm going through something, if I'm going to get set outside, if I'm going to be put out of my house. Nobody will never find no, because I don't go to them and I won't ask them for nothing. Getting put out, homeless, got family, but I'm not going to tell anybody, church members, friends, anybody. I'm just going to keep pretending like it's all good. And I asked a lot of women I talked to them, I said, girl, you looking good from the toe up. You all looking good and smelling good. Well, how you doing on the inside? And sometimes what I hear is, girl, I look good on the outside, but I'm fucked up on the inside. And on the inside, I ain't doing so good. But I look good. Got some stilettos on, got my nails done, got my hair done, looking good, but not feeling so good inside. More comments. I like Tarika's comment. She says 80% of black women don't take care of themselves. I said, how you come up with that number? You scientists or something? She's like, everybody I know take care of themselves. Every black woman I know take care of somebody else. 80%? Yeah. 80%. This was the one that really I thought deserved a lot of attention, was women feeling like they have to be superwoman. How many here have been told you're superwoman? Why are you superwoman? Give me your list.
No, because you take care of everybody. You put everybody before yourself. That kind of yeah. So,
I'm a superwoman. Superwoman.
I mean, she said it, taking care of the people, kind of putting their needs sometimes before yours, you know, running errands and this, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything that everybody said, but added on that, it also showing that you too have to be able to, you know, get all the degrees and get the job and maintaining that facade that you have everything in balance. In addition to taking care of everyone all at the same time.
In addition to taking care of everybody else. And I like the word you use, facade. Like I said, look good on the outside, but toe up on the inside.
And I agree with what she said too, and to add to it, to everything everybody said. I'm gonna step out of that and say a black full-figured woman. I used to weigh 341 pounds. And I always knew that if I didn't overdo for everything, that I wasn't going to be hired on a job, because that woman coming that's light skinned, got long hair hanging down her back, nice shape, boobs sitting up underneath the chin, and everything tucked in, that if I had to, I would have to go to school and get every degree possible, get all the experience, because I know I was not going to be the person. So I was always a person that was struggling to do this and do that and not ask for help from anybody, but to go ahead, because I knew that, I felt that help wasn't going to get me where I needed to go, and I needed to push forward for that.
That's what a lot of women have said in this study, is that, one, I don't think that there's anyone that can handle the help that I need. As one participant says, you can't handle what I got to go through. So why am I going to tell you? Why would I tell a therapist? And a lot of times I have clients come to therapy and go, oh, Dr. Franklin, I don't mean to tell you, burden you down my problem. Like, that's my job. Because they even, in the therapist's office, feel like it's too much for you to handle. They'll tell stories about being beat with hammers by their husbands. The one woman's story that I always remember, she was in a relationship, abusive. One night her husband was so drunk, he came home and they had a fight. For some reason there was a hammer in the bedroom. He beat her with the hammer. She passed out, but she was awake enough to see that he was passed out. And she was afraid to get up and leave because she was afraid he would see her leave and beat her again. So she stayed up all night bleeding to death. in a chair looking at a man that's drunk in a bed. I'm thinking, did you ever think to get up and hit him and run out the room? Of course not. You know, that's just, we talked about this 3 years later. I didn't tell her that at the moment, but she said, you know, even in that moment, I never thought to try to leave. I was so afraid. And those are the stories I hear, you know, 50 minutes, and I hear another story like that 50 minutes. So we carry a lot of stuff with us. The other part people talked about, like Ms. Belton just indicated, is that we don't feel like we're, as Dr. Roberts alluded to, there's this whole sense of shame of who we are isn't good enough. So if I'm not good enough, I'm too heavy, I'm too thin, I ain't hair ain't long enough, my nails ain't pretty enough, why am I going to go tell somebody else that and give them some more ammunition against me? And the last part that I didn't, we looked through the comments, was that some of the women indicated that there's all these secrets. These family secrets. Daddy raped me. I thought this child was my sister. Find out she's my daughter. And how old are you? I'm 50-something. I have a daughter that's 30-something. All these years, what happened? Well, they told me it was my sister. Then when my mom died, she told me it was my daughter. Well, that'll mess with your head. Those secrets, or being raped by your dad or something at an early age, or a brother or cousin, and never telling anyone. Why didn't you tell your mother? Well, I didn't want my mother to be mad at me. I didn't want her to say it was my fault. So there's all these things that black women carry with them throughout their lives, and then expect to be able to take care of everybody else.
Well, Dr. Franklin, you said about the person who said that when they didn't want to tell anybody something about them because how were they going to handle it? It was too much for them to handle. I worked with some psychiatrists back in the 70s, and he told me that they had a room where they were doing sensitivity training. A new role for me that we sit around the room and be able to talk about something like that. I don't like her. I'm going to tell you why I don't like her. Right. Well, he said that it was a whole team of psychiatrists there, and when the man got them to open up and say everything, one of the psychiatrists wanted to fight the other one because the person who was talking to them and helped bring that stuff out wasn't equipped or qualified to handle what was being said afterwards. And that's another thing about you go someplace, if I tell you all of my business and what I'm going through, are you going to be able to help me, or do I go home, this is crazy? That, you know, when I first came in the door.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard this on several occasions through the interviews of people saying things similar to that I don't know, what are they going to do with my information? I'm going to come into therapy, I'm going to tell them about, you know, my baby daddy beating me. Then what's going to happen? You're going to send DCFS out and take my kids because they're in a dangerous house? Or you're going to, because I've been drinking today, if I tell you I'm drinking, you're going to tell me I got a drinking problem? But then who's going to take care of my kids? So there's this whole sense of, I don't really even know what y'all going to do with them. And one of the participants that I was with, she said, you know what, Dr. Franklin, I don't even really know what y'all do. Now, you know, maybe y'all can explain it, but I don't really think y'all can help me. How do I know what you're going to do is going to make me feel better? And as a mental health provider, the first thing I do with my clients is educate them and tell them, today I'm going to hear your problem, but you know what, my magical wand, let me see. Oh, it's broke. I ain't going to be able to do my magical wand today. But what I can do is teach you some new skill. I can give you some skill, just like I can give you, you know, money. You can decide to spend it or save it or burn it and blow it. I'm going to give you some skills, and you can decide, can I use them or I don't. I don't want to use them. But you're not going to come in here and I'm going to go, whew, you walk out feeling better. You spend 20, 30, 50 years of your life destroying this stuff and parts of yourself. You walk in for 50 minutes, it's supposed to be over? Don't work that way. So education for me is first thing. The reason why I brought this chart out is because at the very bottom, this woman here, Miss Roberts. I'd ask her, Miss Roberts, what was going on with you and your husband when you were fighting? You know what, I don't know. But, you know, one time I came home and he said he was going to leave me, and I told him, you can go ahead and leave me. I'm going to take the drug money. And then the next, you know what, I don't know. I would tell him that, you know, that's not good for us. I can't keep doing that. That's the worst thing in the world to do. You know, I didn't know. I don't know was every other word And I got to asking people, well, do you feel like you know yourself and know what's going on with yourself? No idea. I don't really know. I don't know why I do what I do. I don't know why I made those choices. So a lot of times, when I just with this population that I looked at, African American women in this group talked about, I know these things about myself, but I don't really know. I'm not really sure if this is, I don't know why I did what I did. I don't know why I started being promiscuous. I don't know why I always gravitate to violent men. I don't know why my relationships are horrible. And that's when I started saying, this might be an indicator that therapy could help you to figure out, why do you keep gravitating to the same type of thug men? Why do you keep gravitating to men who can't pay your bills? Why do you keep gravitating to relationships in your family where you end up fighting with them? Why does that, and getting on jobs where you keep getting fired? Why does that keep happening? So we know ourselves, but we don't know ourselves. And sometimes that's a perfect place for therapy to intervene and say, let's figure out why are you in your fourth marriage? And you're 45. Let's just, maybe we can, and that's why I tell people, therapy isn't about you being crazy. If someone has a death in their family, that's a good reason to come to therapy. It's one place you can go with somebody in the family and go, well, I don't care about your grief, let me tell you about my grief.
I don't want to hear that.
I don't want to hear you tell you about yours. I know you lost it too, but let me tell you how I lost it. It was worse for me. You had to get it when you was a child, I had it better. So, therapy is one place where I can go, you're not my sister, you're not my brother, so I can listen to all of your stuff all day long. So that's one of the things we can educate again in therapy. These are more about how we learn to pull together these concepts of, within the research, pulling all their data together until they become what we call constant comparison, or more codes, and those codes become more focused. So these are the final 12 most focused codes or factors that influence what these participants were saying, that influence how they decide to go to therapy or not. Anyone pick out anything up there that resonate with you, or do you have questions about anything that's foreign to you, would have never put on your list? Being strong and being secret has been two of the most difficult ones for me to get through, but what do you think the cultural trauma is about? Cultural trauma, what's that about?
Things that's going on in the environment. You might be in a neighborhood maybe, and a lot of shooting. The neighbor next door shooting drugs, beating on his wife. You're jumping under the bed every time you get a gunshot.
What about that? Go ahead.
So would that be the same as vicarious trauma?
Vicarious trauma. Yes. What about the people that are in a little higher social economics? What kind of cultural trauma might those black women be going through?
Meaning they were born into that, or they just
they're experiencing cultural trauma. What type of experiences would that look? What would that look like if you're in a middle social economic status and you're experiencing cultural trauma? What might that look like?
It's a sudden.
Go ahead. Get your hand up. Go ahead.
Maybe even in like where you work places where you're isolated, you're the only maybe one or two, or in interpersonal relationships. Maybe if you're in that sort of environment, say you live in a neighborhood that's predominantly white, or maybe there's a few blacks, the relationships with your neighbors, even your friends might have, maybe your friends, but you're still experiencing racism, or even let's say it's an interracial relationship, and there's still that dynamic playing out, where it's like, humans are capable of having conflicting emotions.
Exactly.
I guess I was just thinking about also being in the workplace, being the only black person or person of color in the workplace, and having to report to people who have certain stereotypes or assumptions about you, and even when you may try to show, I guess, your intelligence or try to contribute, it gets dismissed or overlooked or played down as if is not part of the larger discourse.
Exactly.
And so, you know, and then your
What do you
natural
do with that?
reaction is
What
to
do you-
retreat and not say anything and be in silence.
So that's one of those situations where we see people come to therapy and go, I don't even think that's important to me, but what are you doing with that? When my clients get to this place in my office, the first thing I say is stop. There's a stop sign here. What you gonna do? You're gonna sit with this feeling? You're just gonna go through. What happens when you go through the stop sign? Roll and stop. I kind of stopped. Okay, whoa. What happens? Give an accident, make bad choices, bad things come out. And when you have those, and this is very typical of middle class African American women, trauma that people just dismisses, that's just the way it is. You're in an interracial relationship, you're in an all-white community, that's your problem. You should be in a black community. Flip it. It's not, it's something you need to learn how to deal with. You put yourself in that predicament, so deal with it. That's trauma.
I mean, I was going to say some of the same things in terms of working in the legal system and the medical system I've worked in. I think middle class black women coming in and thinking they had classed themselves out, being treated a certain way,
Right.
and then interfacing with bigger systems that treat them with incredible amounts of disrespect, and then not being able to use their own money or their own resources to get the power, and they've done everything they were told to do. They
got the
behaved the right way.
degrees,
They got the degrees.
got the right
they got
car,
the merit right, and
the right
they're still being
relationship.
treated badly. How dissociative that can make somebody, and how not seen.
Yeah, being invisible.
Yep.
That's cultural trauma. Being dismissed, and that's why I keep saying there's only 4 spots. You can't bring me money. You can be here. We'll do our, affirmative action and have you in a company, but you're dismissed too. You're just like the maid that's out there cleaning up, like they're the real Anita Baker. You may be in the office, but that's about it. You're in the office. You don't get to tell us what to do in the company. So that's trauma. And what do we do with that? We internalize it. One lady actually said, Ms. Roberts made the comment that she had gone from, this is a woman that went from high school diploma, being raised by a mother who was mute deaf in the 50s, a black woman, mute deaf. Her mother found a way to get to a deaf school in Baltimore. I was like, yeah, your mother was a groundbreaker. Mute deaf in the 50s? I mean, I didn't even know they had schools for them. But she made it through that, and then when she got to the other side, she said, I'm 60-some years old. My son died of HIV. I've been in jail. My daughter just died of HIV. But you know what? A lot of time, my life, this is someone that's not in therapy. You hear this story, she's not in therapy. She said, a lot of times we just don't feel good about ourselves. We do all this stuff, we get the degrees, we take care of the community, we go to the right church, we wear the right clothes, but deep down inside we just don't feel good about ourselves. And that's some of the bottom line, is that we're holding those secrets in. We're looking for another way to external and internal locus of control. The whole comment about, I'm going to give it to God. And if I hear one more, your sister saying, I'm going to give it to God, girl, smoking a pipe. I'm going to give it to God, girl. Not now. If I hear that one more time, I'm telling you, keep me praying. Keep me praying. But that's the idea that, I'm just stuck at being a pipe smoker. I'm stuck at being, unfaithful wife. I'm stuck at being a backbiting Christian at church. I'm stuck at being, this is just who I am. I'm just going to tell the truth and shame the devil. Saying things that justify, rationalize your conflict of who you are. Saying that you're going to externally give to God, but internally you feel like you're not good enough to have a better life. So that's the conflict sometimes when people say that they are very spiritual, all this I'm going to hand it over to God, but they turn around the other side of their life and they're completely different. That will put you in conflict. That's a good place to go in and talk to a spiritual person, particularly a therapist with some spiritual background, and maybe get some clarity about that. So those were the 12 main focus codes that we came up with. And what I did was I took those focus codes and pulled them together to figure out how do they relate to each other. And this is where you get to come in and talk. And I won't give you all my steps to getting to that. This was the first one. Strong and self-sufficient. How do we engage black women into counseling? We look at their strength and their self-sufficiency. Number one thing they say about black women, that they're what? Strong. Strong, baby. We're strong. But for me, have found that to be one of the biggest myths that we live with. Because strong people ask for help. Strong people, even when you're lifting weights, give me a spot. You're in the gym, get the cane. Everybody needs some help. I'm going to preach to you a little bit. Jesus even asked for help. He asked him to go out and get the fish and the bread. Everybody needs some help every once in a while. But we say we're strong, which means what? We do what for everybody? Take care of part of the people, everybody. The babies, the dads, the children, the neighbors. Who do we not take care of?
Ourselves.
Oh, y'all learning something in here. Self-sufficient. That's our title. That's a myth in my opinion. The other part of it, we learn all these coping strategies. Pray about it. One lady said, I just fake it till I make it. Well, how did you learn to be a good mom? And she says, my mom left us at, some 6 or 7, and she raised her and her sister from 6 or 7 till about 11, and then they put them in a foster care because the house she was in was with her stepfather. He was an alcoholic, out of the house, so pretty much she parented herself. By 11, she moved in with an abusive person. So, she's not been parented ever. Well, how did you become a parent to your 3 kids? How are you going to teach your kids something if you didn't get it? Take it till you make it. You can imagine what type of parenting she's given to her children. And this isn't just one person. This is a common theme. Social and cultural trauma. The other part of those social and cultural traumas were things like institutionalized racism, the glass ceiling, and feeling out of that your family was not there to support you. Because if I tell the family, then they're going to say, get over and move on. That's cultural trauma. I'm in a family, I've been raped, I can't talk to my mom about it. Social and cultural trauma. So, why don't we engage? Explain it to us. You made the comment a while ago, no one goes to therapy. Why don't we go to therapy? Because I've never witnessed therapy. Well, why don't you? How come you never witnessed therapy? Because I'm not educated on therapy. I've never seen therapy. Why would I go to therapy? I've never even seen anybody in therapy. So I would ask people, do you know anyone that's in therapy? Raise your hand. Know anybody in therapy besides yourself? Not including yourself. What's your line of work?
I'm a graduate student.
Okay. Educated, okay. They have therapy in school. That doesn't count.
I know somebody in therapy.
Like a friend or a doctor or what?
Friend.
We're all educated people. Educated people. I don't want to preach to the choir because I know educated people will make good choices and do things they know is right under the right circumstances. Anyone else know somebody in therapy?
A physician who used to mentor me recommended that I go. But
I'm not you.
No, I'm a nurse though. But had she not broke it down and recommended to me, told me her story,
right,
I wouldn't have gone.
You would have gone.
No.
We don't have a lot in here. And I'm not saying everybody has to go to therapy, but my sermon is really about life is not so easy by yourself. Maya Angelou says no one was meant to be alone. We're not here on our own. And a lot of times family is just not, they're just family, which is great. They're family. They're not your confidant. They're not the person you go to when you're struggling with something and you need something to be in secret but nobody else is going to know about it. Sometimes family's not that for you. They're there for you when you want to, look good, support you, tell you okay, or tell you, girl, if I wouldn't be wearing that, girl. We could take that off, that ain't your color. That's family. The hard stuff, therapists can handle that. At least they should. But a lot of us tell us, I don't even know anybody in therapy. Why would I go to therapy? I don't know anybody in my family. I don't know anybody, black women, that's in therapy. If they've never seen it, they're not educated about it. They're not educated about it, they can't recognize how therapy might work. So if I don't know how it works, I've never seen anybody in therapy, no, I'm not going. It's foreign. If I've never seen anyone that I don't recognize how it works, I don't have any proof that it works. This is the vicious cycle of not engaging. If it doesn't work, why would I go? So you see the thought pattern? I don't know it. I've never seen it. I don't know what they do. I don't know if it works. So if it doesn't work, why would I go? If I'm not going to go, if it does not work, I will not engage. And they're certain that it's not going to work because what? They've never seen it before. Uneducated.
So much shame and stigma.
Shame and stigma.
I think that's the biggest thing among you know, the African American population. You know, I'm not crazy. So and even when you try to educate, you know, it's still stuck in the back of their minds that, you know, the shame and the stigma.
And I asked women, what's the shame that you don't want people to know about you? Why won't you go? And a couple of people said, I don't want somebody to know that I'm really fucked up inside, that I'm crazy.
That's right.
And that's why education is so first thing, because just because you came in and you're feeling some anxiety or depression, or you just went through a divorce, or if someone in your life you know, went through something horrible, or you saw some tragedy, doesn't make you crazy. In my practice, I ask my colleagues, and I tell them, go stop calling people crazy. But all the time, don't cray. That's a favorite. I tell people on a regular, please don't use that language because it's pejorative. Because when my clients hear, even if it's in cavalier, you know, terms, people think, I don't want to be crazy. Am I really crazy, doctor? No, you're not crazy. I try to educate that it's not about you being, it's about we need help. That's all it's about. You just need some help. Everybody needs some help. And again, if the circle closes with, if I don't know if it works and I don't know anyone that goes in therapy, I'm not sure what they do, and I'm not going to engage in it, then that brings me back to the beginning. I don't need it, and I'm not going. So this is the closed thought pattern.
And just one comment, maybe, I know with some individuals, if it was a part of, you know, going to your physical, if that was a question. My mom, she always says, I think she needs some therapy, but I don't think she knows she needs some therapy.
Yes.
So if that would be some part of some type of exam, you know, when you go into your regular routine, they regularly take your blood pressure. What do they do? They always take your blood pressure and take your weight.
Yes.
So maybe some way to actually engage the person in that type of conversation with your regular doctor.
Medical exams.
But you know, some applications ask if you've been to counseling. And so a lot of people steer away from wanting to go to counseling or anything because they don't want, because where I used to work at, if you admitted that you went to counseling, it was something that you had to check in with a counselor periodically in order to hold your job. It depends on as the lady says, everybody's bipolar. You know, so the new word, that's the new word on the street. So if you got the first thing you ask you, what was you diagnosed as? You say bipolar. Okay, I'm looking at your application. I go, oh Lord, you got bipolar. And I may overlook that individual, not knowing that person will probably be the better choice. And so a lot of people know that, so they don't even write that down on paper.
And you know too, I've been working in adult mental health, you know, for over 20 plus years. And what is so sad is that maybe, 10% of the people that are seeking services within the mental health system are actually seriously suffering with a chronic mental illness. They're psychosocial stressors. And they're not, we try, you know, working with them, and then they cut so many services where they can't even get psychotherapy anymore. I mean, they used to be able to go to the clinic, ask, oh, I need to speak with my worker for psycho. Now that's all been, oh, you have to go way across town. These are indigent people, don't have bus money, so those disparities are so prevalent now. And that, oh, I'm calling, I've been so depressed. They want to, you know, put these clients on psychotropic medicines when my husband's beat me up, my son is in jail, I'm losing my house, but they're not connecting them to services in the community to get some type of, you know, counseling to deal with issues that they may be able to guide them through it. I talk about, you know, I've been raped by my brother, my father, and it's just, and it's just
Yeah, it sounds, sometimes it feels insurmountable.
Yeah.
And that's why after doing this research, I decided to continue doing this because what I found is that we don't get to tell our stories. No one knows what we're going through. They see the beautiful outside. They just, you just think of it as another pretty face. And it's not. We have stuff in here that we're holding on to, and it's not healthy. That's why we have the depression and the low birth weight. That's why we have the anxiety and the high substance use.
Yes.
That's why we have the violence. That's why we have the families that are disjointed and falling apart.